Looking back on the wins and the accolades, what would you say you were most proud of?
Sport was my saviour as a child. Most kids that grow up traumatised without unconditional love, by the time they're 14, it's a well-known fact, 27% of our young kids have mental health issues. Oh, you'll never amount to anything. You'll end up a junkie and a prostitute on the streets. Really? It kind of struck me, that I need to find something that I can do, that I can, be able to get myself out, to be self-financing. At 11, I was watching on the TV the Olympics, the Munich Olympics, and I saw Mary Peters, who was then the pentathlon Olympic champion in Munich in 72. And that's where the seed was planted. And it only takes one person in a child's life to be a bright shining star, be their role model. And for me, in the children's home, it was Auntie Ray. When I knew Auntie Ray was coming on duty, I used to run up to the stairs where there was a port window, and I'd look out and I think, oh, where does she live? Oh yeah, she lives down there on the end of the road. And I remember this particular time as a 10-year-old, gathering all these daffodils around the children's home and in people's gardens, naughty girl. And I walked down to Auntie Ray's house one day and I knocked on the door and hid the flowers behind my back. And when she opened the door, I said, will you be my mummy?
Oh my gosh, Fatima. Today I'm joined by Fatima Whitbread, Olympic medalist, world javelin champion, and one of Britain's most admired athletes. Her journey from a difficult childhood in the care system to standing on the world stage is nothing short of remarkable. But beyond the medals, Fatima's story is about resilience, reinvention, and an unshakable spirit. I want to explore how those experiences have not just shaped her outlook on life, but her relationship with food, nourishment, and self-care. This is a conversation about strength in every sense of the word. Fatima, welcome to Crazy Sexy Food.
No, thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
This is a huge privilege for me. I'm fascinated in sports people. I'm fascinated by the discipline, by the lifestyle, by essentially dedicating your life to a sport. But I think yours runs a bit deeper because of your childhood and sort of everything that you have overcome. And we're going to come to that in a minute. But you are one of the busiest people I've ever seen in my life. I've been stalking you on Instagram. How are you, first and foremost?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I've been working exceptionally hard on Fatima's UK campaign, and the future's bright.
And we're going to come to sort of all the amazing work that you are doing with the campaign. But you're currently training for a very exciting challenge. Am I right in saying that it's called the Nordic Arctic Challenge? Pole Peak.
It's a Nordic Arctic Challenge, and it's skiing across the Arctic, pulling your ski slope. What do they call that? Oh, it's a polk. It's a polk peak. It's the actual bags that you have everything on the sledge. So it's a really good challenge, one that you will need to have a good strong mental approach to it, because ultimately you're going to be in extreme conditions. A little bit like when I was in SAS, the conditions there was, at Wadi Rum in Jordan was 40 degrees heat, very granular sand at which you were running across with backpacks. Well, this is a similar situation in the reverse, on the snow with really cold conditions, pulling sledges.
So how many days will you be out there?
Couple of weeks. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. It's my kind of thing, actually.
I love this about you. I love just particularly women as well, who are just like throwing themselves into these incredible sort of ultimate challenges. I mean, what does the training look like for something like this? Are you doing like sort of oxygen training or whatever they call it?
No, not that barrack where you go into those chambers.
Yeah.
No, I mean, most of my training over the years has been suffice. It basically working on cardio, endurance, strength, and 90% of most things that you do anyway is mindset. And I think a strong, positive attitude's really going to get you there. So keeping fit and healthy, eating right foods, and making sure that your mind's strong, because ultimately you're going to be up against extreme conditions. So you need to bring your best A game to
And
it.
what is the food situation going to be out there?
Well, interestingly enough, I've just been looking at last night at what we can eat, and it's quite nice actually. If you're going to be doing 85 kilometers a day, then what you need to be doing is weighing up the calorie intake that you need. So we're looking at possibly 5,000 calories in a day. So that can range from breakfast oats.
Mm-hmm.
You can have snacks, obviously, I would say a Snicker bar, because that's pretty good. When you're out there as well, I mean, obviously it's important to feel happy with your food, because that's something you're going to look forward to in between those hard trekking days. So food's important. So again, anything from spaghetti bolognese, which you can have in these packs, and it's a variety of good food, which is nutritious as well. So it's going to give you the nutrients that you're looking for, but you're going to burn a lot of those nutrients up.
Yeah. And I guess will you be practicing with these foods with your training?
No, my diet has always been pretty spot on for what I need as an athlete. Back in the day when I was competing, we didn't have dietitians. We didn't have these sporting excellence facilities. And you went with common sense, and you knew the amount of work that you're doing. So the calorie intake for me each day was 8,000 calories, which was quite high.
Wow.
I mean, I was training 3 times a day. I mean, 5 days a week weight training, 3 days a week sprinting, cross-country running and endurance training. Then, of course, you've got the plyometric work, which is the bounding, stair bounds, hurdle bounds, triple jumping across 300 meters, like 3 rugby pitches, 6 different exercises. I mean, that kind of endurance work and high octane work, you need to have the right diet. So you would have to have like what we call protein drinks. So Complan, eggs, raw eggs, 3 raw eggs in Complan, milk, bananas, vanilla essence, and put that in a blender. 2 pints of that a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. I mean, that is an easier way to take the calorie intake. And of course, when we talk about 8,000 calories, we're not talking about McDonald's.
Yeah.
We're not talking about fish and chips. We're talking about offal, kidneys, stuffed kidneys.
Wow.
Proper food like salads and vegetables, pulses, seeds, those kinds of foods, of which, obviously, going to give you that sustenance that you need.
Absolutely. I mean, let's actually get straight into sort of your sports career, and we'll come to your sort of your childhood story in a bit. But you showed really early signs of having a talent in javelin throwing. Just to let you know that it was also my top sport in athletics.
Well done.
At school. I was not a sporty girl, just to let you know, until I probably left school when I found the gym and realised that was a lot more exciting. But when I was in athletics, the javelin was my discipline, so to speak. But for anyone who doesn't know, can you actually just explain what the javelin is? Because I don't think a lot of people know.
Well, it's javelino in Spanish, spearwerven in German, or the good old javelin, which is the British way of saying it. Obviously, it's a long implement which is carbon fibres. It's made with carbon fibres, and it also has a centre of gravity. So depending on how your height and size, how you project that spear with speed and excellence technically is going to make a difference to what the end product is, the distance. It's 7'2" in height. Men's are 8 foot.
I didn't realise it was that long.
Yeah, and it weighs a bag of sugar roughly in its length. Now, looking at a javelin, it's very easy. You can look at a javelin and think, I can throw that a long way. But actually, it's technically, you have to be quite efficient. And you have to have strength, speed, and technique. And if you don't have and apply yourself properly, it's like a human bow and arrow. If you don't project it properly through the nose of the javelin, It's not going to fly. You'll end up stabbing your foot, or it'll veer off left or
Yeah,
right.
been there a few times. Yeah.
And so it's a beautifully aesthetic event. If you're sitting in the stadium, it's one of the most beautiful events that you can watch from all around the stadium, because aesthetically it flies and it reaches and soars through the skies. It's amazing.
You mentioned the technique. I mean, I guess this is quite a sort of naive question, but what is the technique of throwing a javelin? Because it's not just as simple as
Yes.
throwing a ball.
Oh no, I mean obviously you've got to have the technique is something like, with all sportsmen and women, when you see they perfect something at the highest level, it's taken hours and hours of repetition of drills and skills to perfect that technique. And for javelin throwing, it's no different. I mean, it's not an easy event, but it's a combination of being strong, fast, agile, flexible in ways that, you can get in and out of positions quickly. You can hold positions when running in cross-step runs. So you, from start to finish, build up that speed like a Ferrari, and then you explode. It's almost like pulling back a bow on an arrow, and then it releases and off it goes. It's got to be smooth. The transition has got to be smooth, but it's got to be powerful.
I mentioned earlier that you're an Olympic medalist. You were a world champion. Looking back on the career, looking back on the wins and the accolades, what would you say you were most proud of?
For me, I mean, sport was my saviour as a child, as growing up, and sport was something that I was able to express myself and earn the respect from my peers, because growing up in care was pretty a difficult time for me. And academically, it was quite tough, because most kids that grow up traumatized without unconditional love, by the time they're 14, it's a well-known fact, 27% of our young kids have mental health issues. Very hard when you're trapped in your own mind to then go to school and study. So it was a sense of freedom that sport gave me. It was a chance for me to earn my respect from my peers. And it also taught me a lot about myself in terms of life skills, the skills that I learned. Being team captain of most of the team sports enabled me to learn a little bit more about how to deal with people, how to handle myself in time management, how to discipline myself in organising events, like the practices. And then, the love of what I do. You can work in and which is important, you work in failure. And it's not that failure defines the end product. It actually is the route to succeeding. So you have to work in that area to perfect it. And so for me, it was all about a learning curve. And my biggest success really came from, as an athlete, from the care system. Starting at the age of 13, training. I mean, when I was 11, I'll take you back a bit earlier than that, I was always being told in the care system, oh, you'll never amount to anything, you'll end up, because in the 60s and 70s, London was all about marijuana and prostitution. And when care leavers left the care system, it was 16 then, not 18 as it is now. And 18, by the way, is far too young. Most children that live in conventional families don't leave the home until they're way into their late 20s. All right, your housing's not affordable to them.
Definitely these days.
Yes, and then they've got the bank of mum and dad, and they've got the support and safety nets where these young kids don't. Mm-hmm. They're unskilled, unprepared, no safety net, and yet their biggest challenges is financial insecurity, then having to sort of circumnavigate rent, bills, employment. And it's a known thing that a third of all these children that leave the care system within the first 2 years end up homeless. So my fear was that at 11, when it was being told to me constantly by the house parents, oh, you'll never amount to anything, you'll end up a junkie and a prostitute on the streets. Really? I couldn't believe that would be my destiny. And it kind of struck me, that I need to find something that I can do, that I can, be able to get myself out, to be self-financing and out of this dark place, of what the future holds. And at 11, I was watching on the TV the Olympics, the Munich Olympics, and I saw Mary Peters, who was then the pentathlon Olympic champion in Munich in 72. And that's where the seed was planted. Then I realised this was something I could do. I loved my sport, and I want to be a champion athlete so I can live in a big mansion and drive Rolls Royces, which isn't the case, may I add. I'm still working. But what it did for me, it gave me, a focus. It gave me the dream was to become a successful athlete. What event, I didn't know. I did start as a heptathlete, which is now, what was then pentathlon, now heptathlon. And that was where I started, as a youngster. And that's what my dream was, to be a successful athlete.
Which you did become. And you became a champion. Mm-hmm. And so when you won world champion, when you won those Olympic medals, what was that feeling like? Mm-hmm. Holding a world record as well?
Mm-hmm. Well, so let's sort of backtrack a bit here, because the build up to being an Olympic athlete and winning, I won 11 major titles, 11 major championships in the 20 years I was competing. And my biggest single success really was not just the end destination of winning golds, as lovely as that was, and that's what I was aiming for. But the biggest takeaway for me was the experience of self-growth. That, to me, from a kid from the care system, was the biggest single achievement. And even now, to this day, I'm able to share that and impart that to others in the care system as a beacon of hope. You can succeed at whatever you choose to do. And it only takes one person in a child's life to be a bright, shining star, be their role model. And for me, in the children's home, it was Auntie Ray. Auntie Ray was a 42-hour lady. And I can remember always, when I knew Auntie Ray was coming on duty, I used to run up to the stairs where there was a port window, and I'd look out and I think, oh, where does she live? Oh, yeah, she lives down there on the end of the road. And I remember this particular time as a 10-year-old, gathering all these daffodils around the children's home and in people's gardens, naughty girl. And I walked down to Auntie Ray's house one day and I knocked on the door and hid the flowers behind my back. And when she opened the door, I said, will you be my mummy?
Oh my gosh, Fatima.
But then Auntie Ray, this is the important thing. Auntie Ray said, Fats, come round the back, let's talk about this. So I thought, I'm going to be in trouble now for picking the flowers. But she sat me in her kitchen and we had a cup of tea and a biscuit, which was lovely. And she said, I can't just be your mum. She said, I've got to be mum to all those children. But here's the thing, she said, I'm not always there and you are. She said, so why don't you be their mum when I'm not there? Now, what that taught me was, I started to think about this as a 10-year-old. And I thought, yeah, I can be their mum. And I sort of made myself unpopular as a 10-year-old because I called out all the injustices, which were many in the children's home. But in doing so, what I did was also brought a sense of fun to all the kids. We used to play trampoline on the beds, pillow fights, draw matchstick men on the steamed up windows in the morning. If they were having nightmares, I would wake them, read them a story or tell them a story from my imagination. Help them change their beds when they were wet the beds and they were crying for mummy. And in giving and fulfilling their needs, I received. So it gave me a purpose. It gave me a purpose that I wasn't trapped in my own mind. The second thing what it did for me, it swiveled the lens. So I wasn't being stuck and feeling victimised by my circumstance, because my purpose was to be a mum and look after those children, fulfil their emotional needs. But in doing so, I received that love back. And it was an amazing, important learning from one person that taught that to me. So role models are really important to young people.
Do you think that encounter with her, you've kind of mentioned it, but you use the word victim, and I never have got that sense from you that you have felt like you're a victim.
Victimised.
But then you're talking to me about all these phenomenal things that you were doing for the other kids and sort of acting as their mum.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that encounter was kind of the catalyst
yeah,
that totally created a mindset for you that was about strength
and
resilience.
That's exactly what it did for me, because I had a steely inner strength. Not all children have that when they grow up in the care system. They're emotionally disturbed, and that victimization, what it does, it freezes you in flight and fight mode. It holds you in a position where you can't feel you can have that growth, move forward. It completely imprisons you in your own head. And that was one of the things I released myself from, in having a purpose to look after these young people. And obviously, and there was no inclusion back then with children in the care system. We were bullied awfully at school for being in the free school dinner lines. And I would never go in those free school dinner lines. I used to be round the back of the bike shed playing penny up the wall. And what that is a game where you toss a coin up to the wall in a line with others, and the closest two scooped all the money. Now, I would call that entrepreneurial back then.
Very.
Right? And that's how I earned my dinner money. And my friend who lived in the home round the corner, and if we didn't have enough, I'd always say, right, come on, let's go over to the corner shop, the chippy, and ask the old girl, I say, you got any old scraps? And she'd throw all the old rubbish in the bag. And then she'd throw a few chips on top, and then I'd cheekily say, oh, what about pickle onion? And she said, go on, cheeky, and she'd throw a pickle onion in. But that's survival. Those survival instincts is what helps you to thrive, and it gives you the opportunity of succeeding in life. And you've got to learn that as a child in the care system quite early on, because you're fighting for yourself. And for me, it wasn't just about fighting for myself and my own rights as a child in the care system. It was also as a mother to those children as well, looking after many, many children that came in to that home, 25 in our first children's home, 14 in our next. And as I say, they're all varying on various spectrum of need, and it was a very big learning curve for me.
I'm going to quote something that you've said that's sort of quite connected to what you've been talking about, but sort of links sort of your sports career. Some credit for my choice of sport must go to the javelin itself. It is not only a magical event, it is a beautiful one.
Yes.
The flight of the javelin is a glorious sight. And as I very soon discovered, letting go was a fantastic feeling. Now, I'm going to put on my unsolicited therapist's hat for a second, and I'm going to analyze that. And what I see from that is actually a lot of what you're talking about this idea that there were interactions that very much changed your mindset, but it was the sport and the idea of finding, whether it was discipline, responsibility, a schedule,
right,
that allowed you to kind of separate the turbulent childhood into
sense of freedom
and a sense of freedom.
Bodicea, the modern day Bodicea. What that did for me
and
was
that idea of letting go
and let me express myself.
Yeah.
And the release of all the anger and tension through an explosive event. But also it's so beautiful. But you can't allow it, like in life, you can't allow your temper to get the better of you. You get even, all right, not mad. And the point is that with any sport, you have to perfect it. So it takes a lot of discipline. And through that discipline, I got a free flow state of mind, which enabled me to be creative with what I was doing. It enabled me to express who I was, but also create what I wanted to be and where I was going. And the javelin is everything rolled up in one, because to be a good javelin thrower, you have to be a multitasker. You have to do all disciplines. You have to weight train, you have to cross-country run, you have to do sprinting, you have to do bounding, medicine ball throwing. There's so many other disciplines that you have to cover in order on a daily basis, 3 times a day, 7 days a week. And I only had 2 weeks a year active rest, and then off I went again. And I sought people's advice from Jeff Capes, who was the world's strongest man, also Britain's best ever shot putter, Olympian shot putter, and also Highland Games winner 6 times. Jeff was a phantom of all knowledge when it came to throws events, because he, when I came into the team, I was only a young kid coming out the care system, and Jeff's kind of like was like a big brother to me. He'd keep an eye out and look after me, and his love for birds as well. Weren't just the feather type, because he was he used to keep badgerigars, and he used to was it always in competition, took them across the country. But Jeff was a lovely guy, I mean, he gave me a lot of advice about strength work. Precious Mackenzie, who was a New Zealand bodybuilder as well, weightlifter in the Olympics, I would talk to him. So during the course of my competitive days, I would sought after the advice I need. Like Willie Banks was a world triple jumper. I'd ask him about, plyometric work. I sought the best if I could, but took a bit from everybody and went down the middle, what worked for me. And that's how Mum and I, my adoptive mum, we worked together to conquer the world, and that really, a mum and daughter, athlete and coach, worked exceptionally well.
And we're going to come to her in a second, but I just want to sort of round up this part of your life. How are your shoulders these days?
Well, I've got to be honest.
Because, sorry, I just want to interrupt a sec. I know you're saying that it's a full body sort of discipline, so to speak, but where's the actual power? Where's the power
shoulder.
coming from the shoulder?
It's a bow, so your body is like a bow. So when you hold the javelin back, it's from there all the way down to the ground.
Flipping out, because
and
I tell you what,
the impact on the ground when you plant your cross step to pull the javelin through, that ricochets right back up through the body, and the arm is the whiplash at the end.
Because I have shoulder issues. I've got tendonitis in every part of my right shoulder. I mean, there's a few clicks in there.
Yeah, no, but what that is because I totally ruptured my rotator cuff muscle, which ended my career. And the reason why it ended my career, and it was 8 years too soon, was that they didn't have keyhole surgery back then. So the doctor just cut through the nerve box, and that depleted me from all power. And he belt and braced it. So it's never been the same since. Now, I mean, since I'm in my 20s, I've learned to work with it. So if I pour water from a kettle, I use my arm. If I need to lift the weights, I have to get them off the stand and work from there.
Because all my issues are in rotator cuffs as well.
Rotator cuff.
It's painful.
It's painful.
Do you sleep on your right shoulder?
Well, the problem is with that, I get a numb hand now.
Yeah, okay.
Got the pins and needles. And that's all due to, if I'm working hard, and I still work exceptionally hard with my training, if I overload, then I get a sign to tell me, hold on, slow down. But equally, mechanically, I've always been somebody that's been very aware. I mean, back again in our era, we didn't have sporting excellence. We didn't have psychologists. We didn't have dietitians. We didn't have, I trained in a shed, a wooden shed in the back of the garden with my friend who was a boxer, who was my grandfather, my mum's adoptive mum's colleague. My grandfathers, they worked at Purfleet Deep Wharf and Tilbury Docks. And they had this thing called stripping, so they could get through the work by stripping the ships and all the containers within the morning. So the afternoon, Mickey would come back. He was a former boxer, and I would weight train. We set up a place in his shed, and we would weight train. And you had to be perfectly positioned in your movements, otherwise you'd hit the wall or the ceiling. Yeah. So I mean, in the winter it was cold, so you'd have a Kalagas bottle in there as well. You couldn't have it on for too long, just to take the chill off. And you'd have to wear cut off gloves because your hands would stick to the bar, right? But that I would never change, because that made me who I am. If you go to the gym now, there's wonderful facilities.
Yeah.
I was towel blazing a lot of the time because women never weight trained back in the 70s and 80s. Here was Whitbread, muscled up and ready to go.
Yeah.
So, I was always getting, oh, you've got muscles. And I said, yeah, I've got muscles. It's what's called tools for the job. I'm not Bo Derek, but Bo Derek can't throw a javelin. Mm-hmm. That's what you call.
Well, that seamlessly actually brings me on to a question, which is what comes with success, particularly in the industry that you were in or you were in, and the accolades that you were winning. You then start facing a lot of public scrutiny. It just comes with the job.
Part and parcel.
What was said at the time, and how did you deal with that?
It's Hannah here, and I'm so excited to be working with Wayfair.co.uk. Why? Because just like great food, a beautiful home should be full of personality, quality, and joy. Wayfair has everything to bring your dream space to life at prices that make it simple. That's why I'm proud to partner with them. So get it out of your head and into your home with Wayfair.co.uk.
They were trailblazing in a lot of ways, because when you look at the 70s into the 80s, it was amateurism, inverted commas, because it was coming into professionalism. And our era built the platform of what you see today. And my late husband was also the organiser for British Athletics. He did 12 live televised events. He also put together what you see now, the Golden League across the world, the Diamond League. And I was instrumental in seeing all that happen. So I saw it on both sides of the fence, that of an organiser and a meet organiser, and one of being an athlete. Now, I mean, obviously as a woman, women not being, they're all in gyms today, as you know. So having muscles was one thing. Oh, look at you got muscles. And the other thing was, obviously, women shouldn't be paid the same as the men. And I said, and why is that? If I'm a world champion and an Olympic world record holder, why shouldn't I be paid the same as, that it should be equal tariff. We work just as hard as the men do to win championships. So I fought hard, not just for myself, but for the next era of women coming into the sport. And we was also competing in a time where it was Eastern Bloc, East versus West, the Iron Curtain. Now, I've got mixed views about that, because there was, like when you watched Olga Korbut and Nadia Comaneci, even the girls in my event from Germany, Petra Felker, they were taken from their homes at 13 and younger, the gymnasts, and put into sporting excellent academies, taken away from their home life and just purely trained as a platonic, this is for the state. And they were given drugs of which they were supposed to, do whatever they were told to do. Go to bed when they're supposed to, eat this, take that. And then when they finished competing, they were tossed like cars get pushed into, where they crush them and dispense of them. And everything was for the state. Now, when it was told to me, oh, yeah, but, Eastern Bloc were on drugs, I was like, I'm still going to train hard and still want to win. That's not going to put me off. It took me 12 years before I won my first major title, which is a long apprenticeship in anyone's books, in any career. And I remember each year I was improving. And when I broke what was the European Junior title, I brought home the European title. Best, male or female in Britain, the first time ever. I mean, that was the start of a really distinguished, successful career in a power event, and women not really in Britain succeeding. One of colour. There's many things going on in my life. Come out from the care system. I mean, it was all new to me, handling the media, then saying to me, we're going to write your life story, and bringing a picture to me with my biological mum holding me in a frame, saying, "This, I want my blood daughter back." So it was a huge amount to deal with. And so there was no, way of learning how to deal with that. You just had to go through the eye of the storm, as it were.
You mentioned that at the time, we live in a world now where you've got sports psychologists, dietitians, you've got a whole team around you when you're the one sort of who is the competitor or the athlete. This was a day where you didn't have all of these people around you. How sort of such as this, a framed photo of your birth mother, being given to you or whatever. How were you dealing with your mental health? Were you put into therapy? Did you put yourself into therapy at any point?
Well, I saw a child psychiatrist because as a youngster, when made to go back to the biological mum, I was sexually abused and raped at knife point. So, obviously that was quite horrific. And as an 11-year-old, then I had to see a child psychiatrist, but that was only for 2 weeks. I mean, I greatly failed at school because I couldn't concentrate. And that's when sport became a big part of my life, when I saw Mary Peters on TV and I realised this is something that could transform my life, and not just my life, represent something for me in the future, in terms of independence and living that sustainable, independent life. Because for a lot of our young people in the care system, that's the single biggest threat to them, that they become homeless because they're not prepared in any way. They don't have that bank of mum and dad, and they've got no point of contact. So they're alone, abandoned and voiceless, and no child should be left like that. Having been through the care system in the way that I did, that was my strength and resilience, fighting instinct that came out when I won the World Championship, Britain's only gold medal. That was when the press came to me with a picture, like the biological mum. They put it in the paper, holding a picture of me in a frame, saying, "I want my biological daughter back."
This is actually a perfect time for us to mention sort of your start in life. So to kind of, and I don't mean this in a sort of flippant way, but to sort of just summarize what your start of life was like. You were left and abandoned as a baby by your birth mother and put into the care system.
Yes.
In your words, you said that you were left for dead.
I was very fortunate. I was abandoned as a baby, and some would say left to die. And a neighbour heard the baby crying in a flat, hadn't seen anybody coming or going in a couple of days. So she called the police, who then they came and banged the door down, rescued the baby, which was myself. And then I spent the next several months in hospital recovering from malnutrition and nappy rash. But pleased to say I got over that nappy rash.
You obviously then spend a substantial number of years in the system. You then get fostered and adopted by Margaret Whitbread. I know I'm speeding along a bit here. And she was a former athlete. She then became your coach as well. And I guess, look, even me talking about this, I'm feeling quite emotional, even reciting these words. How do you overcome a personal history like that? Like you're talking about yourself. I'm talking about you. I'm literally repeating things that is fact. Do you you find a way to survive? You find a way to live?
Well, you have to get rid of that word overcome, because it's something I live with on a daily basis. And as a young person, and I'll talk when I talk to all young children, the fact is, when you reach a certain age, your responsibility is to do the healing work. And the healing work is really key, because on a daily basis, you can be triggered. If you don't have the tools in the box to be able to circumnavigate your daily life, and past experience, future events trigger that, past experiences, you're always going to be in what I call a state of limbo, of disarray, emotional turbulence. And often our young people in the care system get misunderstood through their trauma, because people don't understand trauma. They're not trauma informed. And we'll all suffer from trauma. You will do, as just by being a human being. It's not unique to anybody, right? But what we, like I say, have the responsibility for is the healing work. So here's what I do. I mean, on a daily basis, I call it the 3 M's: movement, mindset, and mindfulness. Now, sometimes we can be frozen in a state when we wake of anxiety. And it's always much worse if you stay put and you're building that bigger in your mind than it is. As soon as you start moving, your serotonins, your hormones are working, and that feel-good factor comes to you. And those feelings of anxiety and anguish dissipate. Now, you're only going to learn that if you learn to listen to what your body's telling you and understand, how do I deal with this? The second part of the movement is to mindfulness. Now, if you're moving around in nature, you go for a walk with your friends in the park or the forest, or you take your dog out, you start feeling much more positive about your surroundings, the environment that you're in. And that's when you get what I call a free flow state of mind. And you can then start talking a narrative of positivity to yourself. And you start feeling stronger about how you are for the day. And then the last M is what we call mindset. Mindset is 90% of everything you achieve in life. If you're going to tell yourself you're not going to do it, chances are you won't.
Yeah. Couldn't agree
So
more.
it's all about having that positive mental approach. And mindset is the biggest part of anything that we do. So 3Ms are really important to me. The other things that I like to do in my daily life, and I set time to do it, because you have to factor that time into your daily life, because if you don't, you're not looking after yourself, and that one person, in the end of the day, the only person that's going to look after you is you, right? Because we all have that responsibility to ourselves. So make sure you factor time in and show up for it, even if it's just 5 minutes a day. I mean, I will do my artwork. I love art. I'll do my podcasting. I call that my homework. Podcasting's great. You can learn a lot about emotional intelligence and sharing good things.
Sure do.
Like what we're doing
Yeah.
now. So that's how self-growth. I mean, that's part of my self-growth, of learning to heal oneself. And I keep that I'm in a constant state of learning and growing and healing, because they're the things that keep you in that positive free flow state of mind, of always being able to succeed and thrive. I mean, if you don't do it, the chances are you're going to have to make time for being ill, because you're not looking after yourself properly. So why not make time for being healing and positive, than finding, that you're going to have to take time out and sort yourself out.
Back to kind of actually your background. So your birth mother was Greek Cypriot.
Mm-hmm.
Turkish Cypriot, and and the birth father was...
Yeah, it's funny that you mention this, because the father, I've always thought was, because he was in Limassol, he was a policeman.
Oh yeah, so I've been to Limassol. Yeah.
And I trained there for 10 years on and off as an athlete.
Did you?
Yeah. And I always thought it was Greek Cypriot, but they were both Turkish Cypriot.
They were both Turkish Cypriot. Interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
Do you feel any identity to your Cypriot heritage?
Well, that's interesting too, because I, like I said, spent 10 years training like Happy Valley with the Army Forces, and just generally being in Cyprus and not in Turkey. And it wasn't until much later that I went back to my original roots in Turkey through doing BBC pilgrimage walk, where we walked from Vienna to Istanbul. And that was a real reality check for me as to what life would have been like had I been, lived in the family with the Turkish family that most of these young children that I was seeing in Istanbul. It really brought, a lump to my throat to think that, that lifestyle, I felt connected to it in a way, because I'm a calm person. I'm a very positive, strong-willed young lady, but also I'm very laid back. I'm quite calm. I'm quite zen, and I like that. And I found that in Cyprus and in Turkey that the Cyps are quite laid back.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and equally their food is good. It's a basic Mediterranean food, and I love.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I love that. I love my Mediterranean diet.
Do you
It works well for me.
Do you cook much Cypriot food?
I don't cook the separate foods, but I love the Greek salads. Yeah, I love, the crudités, the hummus, and yeah,
Or
I
the
mean,
meze
and the
and the
mezes,
dips, and
olives,
yes.
and I love that. And what I love about food, it connects people.
Mm.
Food's a great way of, it's not just a sustenance, it's connection, it's about cultures. It's also brings you together, and I love that about food. And when I travelled as an athlete, it was wonderful to try everything, all different cultures.
I can imagine. I'm sort of trying to find a way to link the food with your childhood in some way, but I want to just take it back to Margaret a second, who
Well,
was.
food with my childhood's very easy. We all had a vegetable patch. We grew food.
So you were growing your own
We were growing
vegetables,
our own vegetables when we were kids.
and this was in the in
That was
in the
in the children's
homes.
homes. We all had a vegetable patch. And that connected us to the earth. Earth, soil is where nature's at its best. You plant a seed and watch it grow. And that was fabulous, for us as kids to see what we were doing with our own bare hands in soil. And then food, picking and sitting together and eating that produce.
And who would cook in these homes? Were you cooking for yourself?
No, we had an Auntie Ray,
Yeah.
and other aunties that came in. They would help prepare the food. But what we did do is lay the table, unlay the table, wash up, help prepare the food with Auntie Ray. Auntie Ray would always take me under her wing. I was always very enthusiastic to learn about a lot of things, and peeling the potatoes, and what was a gooseberry, what was a radish, what was a tomato, what was a root vegetable, and it was just a wonderful way of bringing that love to the home through food and through growing it.
Can you remember any dishes that sort of really remind you of your childhood, like the key dishes?
Well, obviously the dishes we had were not immense, because we didn't eat really well as kids.
Yeah.
And nowadays you wouldn't allow this, but they gave us sugar sandwiches sometimes for tea, which was crazy. And you could count the beans on 2 pieces of toast, 7 beans. And Auntie Ray, when she used to come on duty, she'd say, Fats, go over to the shop, and she'd dig money out of her own purse and go and buy another couple of tins of beans. Where we did eat properly was at the weekend, because I think they thought we're going to have lunch at school. But we didn't have lunch at school because we didn't want to be bullied.
Yeah.
So we was constantly feeling hungry all the time. But on a Sunday there would be a roast dinner. And remember the Corona man used to come round on a Sunday, and we would either have a bottle of Tizer, cherryade or lemonade or soda, cream soda, and you'd have 1 glass with your meal, and that was like a real treat.
Yeah.
But Sunday roast was always the best time, I think, for us kids.
Let's talk about Fatima's UK campaign, which is sort of the basis of all you do now.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess there's so many questions that, I could ask about sort of where we're at now. But if you could pinpoint one, what is the biggest issue facing the care system right now?
As I've said, from the words they go, really, the campaign, Fatima's UK campaign, is all about eradicating silos and bringing collaboration and partnerships together in shared good practice and knowledge, so that the care system itself works collectively to improve those life outcomes, and not as they were, which wasn't serving the purpose it should be doing, in terms of improving opportunities for our young people. It was setting them up for failure and further damage, and also amplifying the children's voices, really important where decisions are made, so those local authorities are listening to what these young people are saying. But building on that foundation, because we had a summit in April.
I saw.
Now that summit was a 2-day summit, and it was a historic moment of bringing the 4 nations together for the very first time. We had 110 contributors, 900 stakeholders over that 2-day period, which represented right across the care system, from mental health, virtual heads of schools, education, probation, county lines, homelessness, housing, power, sports, arts and technology programs, which we do, which building on that experience and innovation, like having networked that. First of all, we've got a directorate that's never existed in the whole of the care system's history. Now we know who's who and where to go. And these success stories that are coming out now from the summit is wonderful. That people have connected, and collaborating. And, A didn't know what B was doing. And they were sort of thinking, well, when they met, these components came together, which meant that it strengthened that structure around a child's life. In order for the schools to work with the social workers, education also was working with, local authorities, and building that safety construct around a child's really important, because what happens at A in the home doesn't necessarily get transmitted at the school. So there's the missing gap, and where the child can fall through that gap, and the other side of that is to improve and up the age from 18 to 25 for the care of duty that corporate parent has, which is the government, because they do have a responsibility to make sure that these young people are safe, in terms of, 18 is too young to be pushed out in the world alone, unprepared, without, any savings. And as I've said to you before, they're not equipped to be able to circumnavigate rent, bills, employment.
Sort of looking at all that you do, what do you hope to see? What do you hope to see change in your lifetime?
Now, what we're doing with Fatima's UK campaign, building on that foundation, that successful foundation of the summit, we're now working on action hubs, local authority wraparound programs and pathfinders. What that will do is act as a beacon of hope, and to also for the care system, and also young people, to skill those young people up in preparation to go independent living, so they can live a sustainable independent life. So people that come aboard, like banking to financial awareness, in order to help our young people to understand how to look after their money so they don't fall into crisis. Mental health therapies, we've got a National Health Service and companies that work within mental health that can give free therapies to children and young people. These young children, when they grow up into adulthood, it doesn't stop.
No.
They need continued support.
Yeah.
Employment, local authority wraparound programs, free travel, free leisure, help to, like a parent would, to navigate that child through their leaving the care system from 18 into adulthood, preparing them, helping them to write out forms, interviews, get them up in the morning, that kind of thing, what a parent would do,
Sort of life skills.
Life skills, yeah. And that's so important, because that's the foundation to everything.
Yeah.
And so these hubs, we're already 11 hubs in place, and the local authorities are coming aboard. For those stakeholders that we're working with are action orientated, so they're already part way there, in which case they will train up the second trench, and the second trench, the third trench. It's not a project, it's a sustainable replicable model which will be rolled out right across the country. And even when governments evolve, their structures evolve, it's something that can be handed on.
Absolutely. For anyone watching or listening or sort of wants to get involved, how can people help? Like what could I do? What could anyone do?
Well, this is what I always ask. Look, I mean, governments can't plug all those holes. And so it's all our responsibility. We all have a moral and ethical responsibility to do what we can. So I always say, ask yourself, what more can you do? What more could you do to help Fatima's UK campaign make a difference to these young people's lives? Or what more can you do within your community that's going to help build happier lives, and better communities? I mean, because these children are our future, and we should aspire for them as we do our own. And why wouldn't we? Because, put them on an unstoppable human path to reaching their goals and living their dreams, because ultimately one day they're going to have a family of their own. We want them to live that independent, sustainable life so they can break that cycle. History's not going to repeat itself. I mean, so really, ask yourself what it is you can do. Go on my website, Fatima's UK campaign, come and support us and do what you can. So Christmas, this particular time, is a really tough time for our young care experience. We're coming into what we call the care experience. It used to be called Care Leavers Month, but it's National Care Experience Month. What that means is these 18-year-olds are now being pushed out into independent living. And as I said, they're alone. Most of them will be sitting isolated in a flat somewhere, whilst we're enjoying Christmas with our families, having our roast dinners, opening our presents. Spare a thought for these children. So go on Fatima's UK campaign and donate and gift to help us, because we're currently now putting together, a collaboration of people so we can help give them a chance to sit round the table with a number of people and have a roast dinner together instead of being isolated.
Sort of more recent times in your life, it comes as no surprise now that I really know about you, that you really do love a challenge.
I said.
And you have been on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, not once, but twice. Really simple question. Why?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, that's who I am. I mean, if you bought a stick of rock from Southend and broke it in half, you'd see Southend right the way through.
Yeah.
And when you see Whitbread, it's all about the challenge, the strength and resilience of stepping up to a challenge.
Yeah.
And I've always said, I mean, I love challenges. And I always say, what is the brilliance behind my mantra? So it's strength, love, and kindness that completes my world. And the question is not who's going to let me, but who's going to stop me. Because that's who I am. And the challenge to me, if you say to me, you can't do that or you won't be able to, I'll show you I can. And I love a challenge. And, as an athlete, I was always challenging myself to do better, go further, go higher. And now as someone as Fatima's UK campaign, part of what I do is to create an awareness and to also get very needed sustainable funds to be able to put our young people through what our programs called the Power Sport and Arts and Technology programs. Not all kids like sport, but some of them like art, like singing, like being actors, and some like technology. And in order to do that, we need to have funds to come in to put those children through those programs. And what that does is keep them in a safe haven. It teaches them life skills. It prepares them and connects them to their community, and the only way we can continue to do that is to raise awareness, raise funds, and that's why I do the challenges that I do.
With regards to I'm a Celebrity, how did you deal with the lack of food?
Well, that's again amazing sense of discipline, and the hardest thing is when you're in the jungle in I'm a Celeb is not the critters. It's living in extreme conditions with 12 other celebrities, so-called celebrities, all right? Well, I use the word loosely, celebrities. I don't like the word.
No.
We're all human beings. We're all spiritual beings living in a human carcass, all right? So for me, it's all about taking away the best of that experience and where you can change pain into positivity. And living against people that have in extreme conditions are finding it hard. We're not being in touch with loved ones, feeling tired because they're not sleeping, in the jungle, and having activities, eating fish eyes and anus or whatever it is.
Camel balls and things.
Yes. and that's when you realise who you really are. And that's when you see other people at their best and worst, and being able to deal with that.
I mean, you also, you did it again with Celebrity SAS. I know you don't like the word celebrity, but, Celebrity SAS, Who Dares Wins. I mean, that is sort of, for me, the ultimate challenge. You broke 3 ribs after jumping out of a plane.
Second day. Yeah. And I stayed virtually to the end. It's amazing, really.
You're like an Iron Man.
Yeah.
An Iron Woman.
Iron Men challenges and triathlons. The thing about me is that I'm very resilient. I'm a strong, steely young lady. And I look at the wider picture. I'd only just gone in and I didn't want to step out. So, okay, suck it up and get on with it, because that's really what SAS is all about. And that's really who I am as well as an athlete. Sponge to water. If you throw a sponge in, it sucks up the water, and that's how I looked at these challenges, really. Jumping into, with your backpack into like 50 feet and also falling backwards, that was another good challenge. Falling in backwards just 50 feet up in the air into deep, dark ocean. You didn't know if you were up or down, and you couldn't see a thing. It was pitch black. So you didn't know if you were swimming further down or you were swimming sideways or you were going up. You couldn't see, it was night time. You couldn't see the light. So it was a scary moment for a period of time, but that transforms your way of, your inner strength. And, you realize your limitations or your strengths. You get to know who you are, and that you can't buy. That experience is something, you can't buy it.
You talk a lot about sort of loving a challenge, pushing yourself.
Yeah, I do.
But I guess what I'm now interested in asking is, has there been a point where you've actually reached your limit?
No, I mean, 60 is quite a landmark. I think you're 3/4 of the way through your life. Most people would say, well, you need to be sat on a sofa with your feet up, watching the TV, eating junk food. No, that's not me.
No, darling.
I'm afraid not. And I would say to anybody that's listening, get off your backside and get out there, because living life to the full is really what it's about this age. And sucking up all those experiences, it keeps you young,
Totally.
I absolutely love what I do, and going across the Arctic will be another first for me. And yeah, I'm a bit scared, but at the same time, I'm not going to let fear hold me back.
But that's part of it as well, feeling a bit scared. Isn't that part of the drive and the,
That's it. Yes, it's the adrenaline infused.
Totally, completely.
The junkie.
What's your relationship with food like now?
Food's really important to me now, because I've realised as I've got older, you are what you eat. And it doesn't matter how much you train in the gym. If you're eating what you put in there that counts. And our bodies are amazing. They're a chemist.
Yeah.
Its own chemist. And if you're eating junk food all the time, you're really knocking out your own immune system. You're not really getting the best of what your body can offer. So it's all about, looking at what you eat in terms of what is the right kind of foods that's going to serve you well. And that's where I'm at the moment with my diet. I love to intermittent fast.
Okay.
So I mainly don't eat from 8 o'clock the night before until about 12, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
In the afternoon.
Is that every day?
Every day. And then I've also done water fasts. I love to do a water fast. When I was younger, when I stopped competing, I used to do a week-long water fast. Now, there can be, you need to be careful when you do this. Don't take my advice.
Of course, yeah.
On this. I'm not a doctor, but I listen to my own body, and I would train as well. And that I found quite hard to do, but it reboots your immune system. It brings you back to base.
Wow.
So now I don't do it for a week. I do it for 3 days at a time. And I'll do it maybe once every few months. 3 months.
And then what about cooking at home? What are your specialities?
Love cooking. My go-to food is cottage pie, and also fish pie. When I was first adopted with my mum didn't like to cook, but I learnt quickly how to cook, and it was the best time for the family to be gathered round, talk about their day, and
So important.
and it's so important, yeah, and comfort foods as well, because when I'm training 3 times a day, I always used to like that comfort food of fish pie, cottage pie. And then on the weekends, the family gathering of a roast dinner is always a nice one.
And then when you're not cooking, what restaurants do you like going to?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a foodie, actually.
Love this.
Me and my boy are a bit of foodies. My boy, when my boy was growing up, I always taught him on a daily basis. Each school holiday, I would do things with him, like split the colours for washings, change the bed sheets. He's now make someone a good wife.
I was just
cooks.
about to say, God, he sounds perfect.
He is a perfect wife for somebody. No, but we used to cook together as well. Now, subsequently, we love food. But apart from cooking, as you say, we're foodies. We like to go out, try some really lovely rustic foods in good pubs, or if I'm travelling, I like to go to the heart of a place and know what their culture and their food is like. But if I'm going out to restaurants, I like the slapstick of just a pie and mash. But equally, I like to experience. I love Gordon Ramsay's Chelsea Hospital Road.
Lovely.
Wonderful experience. And I also like the waterside inn Bray. Fantastic. I mean, you've got the setting there as well. There are lots of different restaurants around the place. I mean, I could
you could name loads.
Well, quite a few.
So as we sort of come towards the end of our chat, one of the segments that we've added in for this season is that I have gone out and bought the guest a very tongue-in-cheek gift that reminds me of them. So with you, there were lots of different routes I could have gone down. So I thought I'd go really, really tongue-in-cheek. So, Fatima Whitbread, the Olympic world champion javelin thrower, I got you a white French baguette, because Whitbread sounds like white bread, and I thought...
javelin. Yeah, no, very good. That's a nice javelin there.
There we go.
Yeah.
Love it.
I actually love this kind of bread anyway. So super.
So it's yours to take home, or give to the birds around the pond or something. I finish my conversations with a few quick-fire questions. Yeah. Are you ready?
Yeah.
What's the craziest food you've ever eaten?
It has to be on I'm a Celeb.
Yeah.
Fish eyes. When you bite through those fish eyes, you bite through the lens as well, and it has a very funny, salty, bloody taste. Is
it really fishy?
It's fishy, yeah.
Yeah.
Not the greatest.
For you, yeah. I can tell from your face.
And also the fermented eggs, because those fermented eggs, they're quite a delicacy in some parts of the world.
Oh, really? I actually feel like I'd probably enjoy that. I don't know what I like fermented.
If you can get by the smell.
I'm really funny. I quite like fermented things. I don't know. I'd be interested to try one.
Here's a secret. Many people don't know this, but as a child, I suffered a lot with my sinuses, nosebleeds and earaches. And subsequently now, I don't always smell everything and I can't always taste everything. So it suited me perfectly down to the ground when I was in the jungle.
That's how you got through it.
That's how I got through.
My favourite snack of all time is a packet of crisps. What is your favourite flavour of crisps?
I like salt and vinegar.
Okay. Are we talking like just like a nice standard, like a Walker's? Or
it has to be Walker's crisps.
Yeah, of course. Love it. I mean, I love a good salt
and
vinegar.
But equally, I like Walker's baked crisp.
Yes.
And I like the cheese and onion.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
nice.
That's nice too.
Love that. I'm happy to accept that answer. What has been your most memorable meal and why?
My most memorable meal was when I was asked to Buckingham Palace by the Queen. We had a select few back in the 80s. There was only about 15 of us There was the two Ronnies. There was
Oh.
Billy Beaumont, who was the England rugby captain
Yeah.
at the time. Myself, Jeff Capes, and we were invited to have lunch with the Queen. And I've still got the menu.
Oh.
It was fabulous.
What did you have?
We had like Chateaubriand
Oh.
with the vegetables. It was beautifully done.
Oh, what a wonderful experience.
And it was an amazing experience.
What?
And I'm a royalist, you see, so yeah.
There we go. What food sums up happiness for you?
Well, it's got to be the comfort food of a good fish pie, cottage pie,
Yeah.
with lovely green vegetables.
Love it.
Love it.
If you could dine with one athlete, who would it be?
I would like to dine with Petra Felker. She was my arch rival in throwing the javelin, because there are quite a few interesting stories that possibly she would be able to impart with, which I never really fully understood when it was East versus West. That's one, but the other one would be Ed Moses, because he was an American quarter-mile high hurdler, and he was a fantastic athlete. I always admired him.
Love that. Final question. Live to eat or eat to live?
I would eat to live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Eat to live. Because you're going to live a longer life, and you're going to learn to have a whole lot more better experience with yourself, and engage with life and much longer, hopefully.
Well, Fatima, I don't even know how to round up this conversation, if I'm honest. I think I'm, for the first time in 12 seasons, lost for words. But what I'm going to say is that I think you're phenomenal. I think that you are a testament to resilience, to strength. And if you look in the Oxford Dictionary under resilience, I think it should just say Fatima Whitbread. I am in awe of what you have done with your life. And I hope that people come away from this conversation with positivity.
Yes.
And hope, and just a different way of looking at life. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep up the good work.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Until next time. Hungry for more? Hit subscribe.